How's it guys, this is Dayvy FP and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video we're going to be talking about my updated chip strategy. So there have been some fixture changes and some player changes that have affected my chip strategy. So in this video we're going to be talking about what changes those are, as well as what chips I'm going to be using in the upcoming game week. So really important stage of the season, the big blanks and the big doubles are coming up shortly on the horizon. So it's good that we at least have an easily adjusted chip strategy that can change at the drop of a hat, because these fixture changes and these player changes have been a little bit brutal at this stage of the season. So that's something you're interested in. Sit back, relax, and let's get into it. So the first little talking point is a bit of a general one. I wanted to remind you guys to take every single game week at a time. So it might be quite ironic that we're now looking at a chip strategy for the upcoming game weeks when I'm telling you guys to take it one game week at a time. But this we've seen in the previous couple of weeks. I've had this amazing plan of the chips to use in blank game week 18, double game week 19, even looking at double game week 26 that could take place. But now we've had these changes that have come up, and then all the plans kind of go to wreck, and then we're not even using any of them. But the nice thing about the chip strategy is that it's easily adjusted, so we just have to make it quite modular to the current changes that have taken place in terms of the fixtures and the players. I probably should have worded this to take one game week at a time in terms of the deadlines, because we've seen that the drop of a hat, these games have been postponed, and I think that's been the main reason why it's so hard to kind of predict and have a chip strategy, is because the games don't have to be postponed 1 day, 2 days before the deadline. They're adjusted a couple of hours before the kickoff. And I mean, if your fixture is on a Sunday of a game week, how are you meant to adjust for that a couple of days before on the game week deadline? You simply can't. And I think that's been kind of the reason why we've been caught off guard with these postponements, and it's kind of thrown our transfers all over the window, because now a game is suddenly postponed till 2 game weeks time, and then the team has a double game week when you're thinking about taking this player out a game week before. So a lot of unpredictability. That's why I'm kind of recommending you guys to take it one game week deadline at a time. This can be said for this game week when we're looking to use our free hit. I would recommend you guys to use your free hit as late as possible. If you've already activated it, don't worry, you should be still fine if the games do go ahead, but there's still this looming doubt of a potential postponement of all Premier League games, and then unfortunately you can't get your free hit back for those fixtures. So that's why I'm saying just kind of use it one game week at a time. Keep your transfers, keep your chips as late as possible, because that's going to be the best time that we can potentially get as much news as possible. So now going on to the main change, which has been the fixtures from my initial chip strategy to the one I'm going to be giving you guys today. So game week 18 now has another fixture. Manchester United vs Burnley was moved to game week 18. So if you do have Manchester United players or Burnley players, they will be playing in blank game week 18, obviously if they're on injured. And then in game week 19 we also have another fixture, which is Man City vs Aston Villa. So that game is going to go ahead, which makes it a double game week for Aston Villa and Man City as well. And this is a big talking point, because a lot of people want Man City options. I mean, Man City usually are one of the most high scoring sides. Hasn't really been in this season. They've been quite low scoring, seem to have been struggling on an attacking point of view, but defensively they've been quite strong. But whenever Man City have a double game week, kind of all attention turns to them, and with lovely fixtures in there such as Crystal Palace and Aston Villa at home, I think they're a little bit hard to ignore. So suddenly we've gone from not wanting any Man City players to potentially looking at getting 2 or 3 of them in, which is basically why our transfer plans and our chip strategy plans have completely changed. We'll be going over those transfer plans in the upcoming talking points, and then we'll be deciding overall what chip we will be using in game week 19. So right now, the free hit strategy is going to go ahead for blank game week 18, simply due to the fact if the game week 18 fixtures go ahead, I probably have about 3 or 4 players. So for my own personal side, I do have to use the free hit, and I've had a lot of questions on my comments and in the Twitter comments about when you should be using your free hit. So the kind of recommendation that I would go for is if you can get at least 8 players with your free transfers before game week 18, then I do think you have enough players for blank game week 18. I don't think it's going to be an exceptional week. I don't think it's going to be a potentially high scoring week, so 8 players should be enough, and that also gives you a little bit of leeway on the double game week players, because hopefully then you've prepared for the double game week enough so that you can go into double game week 19 with enough players for that to kind of take advantage of the double. So 8 players should be kind of the sweet spot, and then if you can get less than 8 players with your transfers, then I would recommend using the free hit. You don't really want to ruin your team with a lot of hits for the blank game week 18. I know there is the strategy kind of taking a hit for a player is only a -2, 2, because the player you have already won't play in blank Game Week 18 and the player you bring in potentially will. So that's kind of the thinking behind it, but I would recommend not to kind of ruin your team with taking a lot of hits. Just take your free hit. I mean, this could be one of the biggest blank game weeks of the season, so it might be the best time to use it. And also, if you've mainly prepared for the double Game Week 19, then using the free hit in blank Game Week 18 is a perfectly viable strategy. And for my own personal team, I think that I will be sticking for my free hit. I haven't activated it yet, so there's been a lot of questions as well on my Twitter about have I activated the free hit yet, but simply due to the first talking point we spoke about, whereas using it as late as possible, I'm willing to negate those price rises on players that I potentially want, just to get some more news about the whole fixture scenario and if it's actually going to be worth using my free hit in that game week. So I haven't activated it yet, but I do plan on using it. So this is how the current team goes about, and why I wanted to talk about this is now we're generally focusing on double Game Week 19. So for blank Game Week 18, this won't be the team that I have. That'll obviously be a free hit draft. And if you haven't checked out my initial free hit draft, go check that video out. I'll drop a link down in the description below. But that's generally how my squad should set out if the Game Week 18 does go ahead and we do use the free hit. This is for double Game Week 19. And the reason why I want to highlight this is that this is basically going to be my bench boost that I did plan. So starting off, the main talking point that I will be using for my bench boost and the main concerns I have are going to start with Fabianski. So if you don't know, Fabianski did get injured in the warm-up for the Game Week 17 fixture, which I was not expecting. I was kind of monitoring the scores. I did not know that he was injured, and I really celebrated when West Ham kept a clean sheet against Everton. A little to my knowledge that Fabianski wasn't even on the bench. So his injury is a main concern. I know that he has been a little bit injured throughout the season, so he might have been an injury threat that I didn't actually know about. But if he does not make his return for double Game Week 19, West Ham do have a blank in Game Week 18, so that might give him enough time to recover from this little injury that he's had. There's been basically no news about it, so I'm waiting for the press conference of David Moyes coming up later in the week, and then I'll make my final decision if I do use the bench boost in double Game Week 19. So the reason why Fabianski is such a main concern is that if he is injured, I'll have to use my free transfer on taking him out, and I only have one free transfer before double Game Week 19. So if I use the free hit, after using the free hit, you only get one free transfer, so I only have one free transfer to make a move, and obviously I'm going to be using it on Fabianski because he's not going to be playing in either of the double games. I need him to start both double Game Week fixtures, and I potentially think if he's back from injury, he could, but my main worry with the West Ham keeper is that he comes back for the first game, picks up a little bit of a knock in that one, and then misses out on the second one. And that's kind of not going to maximize my bench boost ability, and that's going to leave me squandering a little bit and not fulfilling kind of the maximum potential that I had. So that's my main concern with Fabianski. In turn, that creates a problem with my single Game Week players in Game Week 19. So that's going to be Son and Kane. So my initial thinking was to take both of these players out for a -4 hit and then take it from there. I would look and kind of build up as much news as possible and then make a switch for whatever players I want to. We'll be talking about who are in those combinations in a little bit, but with Fabianski, if I have to use a free transfer on him, it might not actually be worth using the bench boost, as I might get more points from taking Son and Kane out and bringing in two double Game Week players. The thing with Son and Kane though is they actually do have a good fixture in double Game Week 19. They play Sheffield United away, and I mean Sheffield United have been absolutely atrocious, so I do think that Son and Kane could actually outscore some double Game Week players. So it might be a little bit of a hit or miss here. Maybe I choose to take Fabianski out, still bench boost, and then Son and Kane go on a 5-0 route against Sheffield United, and I actually come out on the best of it, but I would still like to play my odds there, and instead of taking the single Game Week players, choose for some double Game Week players, and maybe even a Man City option. So that's my main concern with the whole bench boost situation, is basically down to Fabianski. So if David Moyes comes out this week and says that Fabianski, which is a little bit of a scare there, they just didn't want to play him because of a little bit of a knock, and he's perfectly fine for the upcoming game weeks, then I probably will still use my bench boost. That's kind of been my main thinking, is that if Fabianski is fine, then I will use my bench boost, but if he's out for a prolonged amount of time, then I might have to consider what chip I do use. So going to those -4 transfers that I was considering of taking Son and Kane out. Now this might be a ridiculous decision for taking Son and Kane out because they've been in quite good form in their last fixture, but the two alternatives that I was looking at are Rashford and Vardy, or going for Kevin De Bruyne and a 9.2 midfielder. So I think the Kevin De Bruyne one is more realistic because I want a Man City option for those lovely fixtures in double Game Week 19 for them. They have Crystal Palace and Aston Villa at home, if you do recall, whereas Rashford and Vardy, Vardy. They have some hit or miss fixtures there. Rashford has a good fixture in the second game, but in the first game he plays against Liverpool, so it might be a little bit of a boring game in that one. And then Vardy has also shown that he might not be as consistent as we'd hope for in that game week 17 fixture. So I think the Kevin De Bruyne and a 9.2 striker is a little bit more of a realistic approach. As for 9.2, I can basically get anyone I want besides Harry Kane or Jamie Vardy. And Kevin De Bruyne could be a potential captaincy option going to the double game week 19. So I definitely think that the Man City player could find his way into my game week 19 squad, depending on the whole Fabianski situation. I could always take a hit and take Fabianski out, but I don't really want to do that. And I might think that taking a -8 for my bench boost might not be the maximum potential that I could get of saving it and maybe using it in a double game week later on in the season. So this is basically the predicament that I've been in, but hopefully in the upcoming days, we do have some closure on some of this news. So the chip strategy for game week 19 still is to use the bench boost. However, I could easily transition that into a triple captain. If I don't think it's worth it to bench boost, maybe Fabianski's out for a long amount of time, I don't really want to take too many hits for that bench boost, I could simply just transition to the triple captain, which I think could be a good strategy for double game week 19 as well. We spoke about Kevin De Bruyne having those lovely fixtures. He could be on the top of that pecking order for a triple captaincy, or I could look at maybe a safer option of Mo Salah, as I think that he'll start in both of those fixtures. But still a lot to be said, but the updated chip strategy is that I am holding my current chip strategy unless we do have news that Fabianski is out injured for a prolonged amount of time. Then we will reset and reassess our situation. So this is basically a wrap the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it if you did, and subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. I'll be checking you guys for the team selection coming up tomorrow. Otherwise on my Twitter at DayvyFPL. I'm going to be signing off. This has been DayvyFPL, and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.